Hello everyone, welcome to the Desolation Sounds Podcast. My name is Stephen Hook and this is a podcast celebrating everything to do within the world of alternative music, be that rock, metal, punk or even extreme metal. We're late, I will concede we're a late boy today, but it's fine, we're here now, better late than never, etc. Coming up on this week's show, we've got all the latest news from the past week and I'll be real, it's been a quiet week. But still, all the latest news from this week as well as any new music released. There's the big question that I posted on various social medias: which band should perform next with an orchestral backing? This is on the back of bands like Bring Me the Horizon, Metallica, and more recently Alter Bridge. And album reviews for this week come from King 810, Weezer, and Bring Me the Horizon. But first, the news as ever. So, odd one to start with. Nickelback bassist Mike Kroger has said that he would love to do a Slayer's covers album. Wouldn't we all? Also, did I say Slayer or Slayers? I'm going to hope I said Slayer. After he said he wants to do a Slayer's cover album, he went on to say that the whole band are Big Four fans. Obviously, Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth. Almost forgot Megadeth. Dave would have been really pissed off. Said Nickelback are all fans of the Big Four, and he and drummer Daniel Adair like to geek out on bands such as Meshuggah, Gojira, Lamb of God, and Animals as leaders. Bit of a jump there from Meshuggah, Gojira, LOG, and then Animals as leaders, but still, this obviously struck people in various different ways because it's really cool to hate on Nickelback, and I'll be honest, I'm one of those people, despite the fact that some of the songs are absolute jams. So I can kind of get why initially there were like opposement to this, saying that that'd be a ridiculous idea. You can't have a band like Nickelback try and do Slayer's covers album. But Slayer, fucking hell, Nickelback kind of do have a heavy side to them. Look at songs like Because of You. I can't remember Nickelback album names, you'll have to forgive me, but Because of You, Side of a Bullet. Side of a Bullet was very confrontational because it's all about the shooting of Dimebag Darrell. Burn It to the Ground. I'm a little bit I'll admit, it was a theme song for WWE Raw for a while, so I do have a soft spot for it. It's kind of like To Be Loved by Papa Roach. Some top quality music there. Because of You, Side of a Bullet, Burn It to the Ground. Even the last Nickelback album, Feed the Machine, had a lot of people questioning whether or not it was djent, which, weird thing, a weird word to associate with Nickelback, but, so it's not completely daft. I don't think Chad Kroger's voice would suit, with Side of a Bullet it was, and Because of You it was a little bit more shouty, but I don't know, I don't know. I'm keen to see how vocally the other members of the band are, because as we'll go into later on with the Weezer album, their guitarist did leads for one of the songs in the latest album, and it fit that role for the song much better than Rivers Cuomo would have done. So it'll be interesting to see if Mike, Daniel, and t'other one, which I don't know because I didn't write it down, be interesting to see what they're like vocally to see if they could do it. So who knows? It's something that I don't mind waiting on, but if it came out, I would definitely listen to. I don't know what that means, but we'll leave it like that. Apparently, and this is, again, it's a weird news week actually. Apparently, Brian Johnson has rejoined AC/DC. The source for this is Terrorizer, long-standing grindcore band who came back about, I was going to say recently, I'm pretty sure that album came out 2011. So, after about a 20-year break. So, grindcore veterans Terrorizer posted on Instagram a caption that read, "We ran into Brian Johnson from AC/DC at the airport today after a flight home. And we asked him about the rumours of him being on the new AC/DC album. He said yes, and that he is sick of denying it. So that was a cool surprise to end the tour." It status with the band has kind of been up in the air after he was forced off the recent Rock or Bust tour, and doctors were telling him that if he stayed on stage, he would be risking permanent hearing loss. And so Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses filled in for him and finished off the tour. And since then, it's been heavily rumoured that Rose was going to be the lead singer for the next AC/DC album. So I don't know where we are with that. It's all rumours. Nothing's been confirmed publicly by Akadaka or Brian Johnson. But, I would still be super interested to find out what an Axl-fronted AC/DC sounds like. I never even looked at live footage when they did go on tour. So maybe if they do bring Johnson back, maybe like an EP of all the Axl sessions, or just like a collaboration or something, I think that'd be really neat. I'm going to drink tea now away from Mike because it annoys people. And I still love a squeaky chair. Last bit of news. Greta Van Fleet bassist Sam Kishka. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. They've popped up a lot recently, and it's a weird name. I really hope I'm getting that right. Sam Kishka has confirmed that the band plan to release a new album by the end of 2019. He told Australian publication Heavy Magazine, "We were talking and I think we all decided early this month that we need to do a record as soon as possible. So the one thing I can say right now is that you can definitely expect album 2 in 2019. We're going to make the music that we want to hear, and we're going to grow musically. This will be the follow-up to 2018's Anthem of a Peaceful Dead, which, despite early promises, apparently a lot of people are comparing it to like Zeppelin and like OG 70s rock. It's not my kind of thing. It didn't really land as well as many were hoping. And it was it was very Marmite from what I've heard. People either really, really adored it or it was complete tripe. So it's interesting that they said we're going to make music that we want to hear. Maybe some kind of label pressure, even fan pressure, got them to switch it up a bit too much on what they were prepared for. So who knows? They said all I've got so far is a new album by the end of the year, and you've got another 10 months left. So yeah, there's not really much we can do at this point. Excuse me, I'm just dying a little bit. And there's only one new song that I could find from this week. While She Sleeps have released a new song called The Guilty Party. It's part of their new album, So What, coming out the 1st of March. I feel like I've got lots of albums coming out the 1st of March. It's going to be a very expensive day. I dig it. My favourite song that they've released so far is still Antisocial. I think that is a full-on whole raspberry jam of a song. But I still dig Guilty Party. The other one it's escaped my brain. The second single they released, I was really keen on at first. Haunt Me. There we go. I was kind of keen on first, but then it's just sort of like withered a bit. I think it might be because I just much prefer Guilty Party, I won't lie. Got lots of woes in there, which is going to be really good for a live show, which I know Sleeps really, really depend on. They've got a really good connection with the fans. And I feel it's got a bit more of like a new metal sound to it now. And like I said, new metal will be making that revival for quite a while now, but it's never just out and out. It's usually coupled with something. So a new metal tinged like metallic hardcore sound might be really, really good actually. So you never know. So far it sounded alright. I'm still intrigued for the new album. The one thing I will say is because of how Loz's vocals have changed over the past few albums, because he did have to have vocal surgery and like completely relearn how to sing. Now that they're doing that more trade-off between him and Matt, which all week I've been getting it wrong between who does the vocals for it. I'm looking at it and it says Matt. I really hope I got that right. But the trade-off between Loz and Matt is becoming hard and hard to tell the difference because their vocal styles are becoming quite similar at times. That's just me. I might be completely making it up. But this is why it's my podcast and not yours. So anyway, that's with the news and anything that's new and interesting for this week. Moving on to a question I posted on the various social medias. Just look for @DesolationPod on pretty much anything and you'll eventually find me. Which band should perform with an orchestral backing? And this all came from the fact that my friend at work started showing me the Bring Me Horizon live album live at the Royal Albert Hall. And it all started with the fact that with Ammo coming out, we've both been listening to it. As I'll go into more detail later, I was completely cynical about the album purely because I didn't like That's the Spirit. There were good points on there, which I'll go into a bit more in a bit, but for the most part, wasn't for me, couldn't get into it. And that's just, I just couldn't do it. So maybe a bit more hesitant for Ammo. And the singles for Ammo being a bit up and down for me as well. But this friend of mine really, really enjoys That's the Spirit. And we were discussing it, and he thinks that the reason why That's the Spirit changed from so much in his opinion is from this album that they did with Parallax Orchestra. So I've been listening to it on and off at work, and they've got an absolute mental flutist. He sounds like he's off his tits on cocaine, which I am all about. Not the cocaine part, bit about just him being mad. That's out of context, that sounds bad. And it uses predominantly songs from That's the Spirit and Sempiternal, albums that already use a lot of their like symphonic sound, or just like the high register synths and that kind of thing. Jordan Fish on those albums has done like a really great job of adding that extra layer of sound to the band's existing sound. And if I'm going to be like an anarch about it, I would have liked more from There Is a Hell. I think songs like Don't Go, Crucify Me, and Home Sweet Home would have really done well with that orchestral backing. I know that it never ends, and it sounds fucking sweet. But the more I listened to this album, the more I was enjoying it, and the more I couldn't stop making comparisons to the OG symphony and metal album, which was S&M by Metallica back in '99. I fucking adore that album. It's an album that I go back to quite regularly. Ended up being the final album with Jason Newsted. He would leave in 2001, eventually to be replaced by Rob Trujillo. And I think it's interesting because unlike That's the Spirit, which predominantly used 2 albums and just like a song off a third, although hearing songs like Tell Slate Not to Wash His Dick and Black and Blue with an orchestra would be fucking hilarious, Metallica used a song from every single album they released up to that point except Kill 'Em All, which I think for similar reasons. It was the first album, production wasn't nearly as good as it was, even on a song like Ride the Lightning. So they stuck to... I watched like documentaries about it, they stuck to songs that they thought would benefit well, not just songs that are like big in their back catalogue. So for instance, Creeping Death, one of the biggest known Metallica songs there are, they didn't do it. It would have been great, but in their mind, it wouldn't have done it justice to have that orchestra back. And I'm reading the track listing over and over and I can't see it, so I'm pretty certain that my assumption that's not on there. And so, as far as I'm aware, they'd never... Well, I'd say as far as I'm aware, they hadn't really done any sort of crossover orchestral music before. The only time they really did was just musically, Cliff Burton, their third bassist, the big one that was there for Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets, he was a massive classical music fan. And the way he played the bass, I've, again, read a lot of bio about him, watched a lot of documentaries, and they say about how he liked to incorporate little classical music tropes into his playing. And so outside of that, they never really combined like symphonic music with the Metallica sound. And for this album, they ended up doing exactly that, because not only did they combine their old music with this new orchestral flavour to it, they wrote 2 brand new songs specifically for the release. One would assume. I've never heard either song without. So you've got No Leaf Clover, which was great. Even live, they used like little audio effects on the vocals to really add that 90s sinister vibe that they had at the time. They were trying to get the vibe. And then you had Minus Human, which I really enjoyed. Minus Human. It's the worst out of the 2, but that's not a bad thing. You know, you got 2 albums like Master of Puppets and Black Album. They are both fantastic albums, but people are always going to choose one over the other. I don't know which way I would go, actually. I was going to put my mind. Yeah, I don't know what genre I'd go for. That's a story for a different day. But yeah, overall, I just fucking love this album. There's so much drama behind it. The size of the sound is so different when you have, like, programming as opposed to a literal orchestra to give you that, like, symphonic sound. Some songs do it better than others. Songs like Old Wolf for Man and Here Today sound fucking spectacular. Especially with Old Wolf for Man, given its like lyrical content, the like sinister like werewolf kind of deal. to have that like spoopy orchestral backing behind it, it just tickles my funny bone something fierce. And here today just was screaming out for some kind of like violins in the background to make it even more emotional than it was before. So what does a symphonic backing actually need to do if a band chooses to do it? It needs to add that new dimension to a band's sound. It needs to excuse me. It needs to make songs sound huge. That's the entire point of classical music. It's meant to be so dramatic and big, and it's really hard to describe how to make music sound big, but once you hear it, you kind of know what it is, and it gives you a chance for the better end of musical performers to experiment with the songwriting, so they can collaborate their existing sound with more orchestral stuff, like what Metallica did with No Leaf Clover and Minus Human. So in the end, I went with 3 options. One that kind of catered for the sound, the symphonic sound, like how Bring Me did, using 2 albums that are predominantly like synth heavy, and just replace those synths with an actual orchestra. The outsider choice, I don't think anyone was expecting. Like, Metallica were on some shit in the 90s, but I still don't think anyone expected them to do a symphonic metal album in the middle of it all. And then last one was when I posted up on social medias. This is the response I got. It's a fucking good response, and I've gone through and figured out why it'd be good or why it'd be bad. It won't be bad because it's great. So the catered choice. The choice that I feel like a band would do really well to not boost the sound, but accompany more than boost, if that makes sense. And there were a lot of options. I've been listening, like over the past few years, been getting more and more into like post-black metal sounds. That was where I first looked at, and a musician like Mirka, who, like, compared to other black metal bands, so I looked at other ones I've listened to, like Oathbreaker, Mole, Death Heaven. They do have that big swelling noise that would do great with things like violins and a whole string section and a brass section. But with Mirka having more folky bits already existing in her music, and she has done, I think it was called Mausoleum, where it's just her recording with very minimal to almost no instruments. I think it was like very, very basic old Celtic string instruments or whatever it is. And having that kind of orchestral backing against Mirka's like searing black metal, post-black metal sound, I thought would have done really well. I also looked at a symphonic death metal band called Flesh God Apocalypse, purely because I think watching an orchestra trying to keep up would have been fucking hysterical. Like, if you ever watch the S&M DVD, them trying to keep up with songs like Battery and Master of Puppets is just beaut. And the other band I looked at was Manowar, and that's purely for like soft-hearted reasons. Manowar were the band that got me into niche parts of music and niche parts of metal. So whereas before it was Metallica, they're a heavy metal band. Guns N' Roses, they're a hard rock band. Iron Maiden, they're a heavy metal band. I got shown Manowar, and I looked at them and thought, looked them up. I was like, power metal? What the fuck is power metal? And the song that actually got me into the album that got me into all that was Gods of War, where they themselves went full on with the symphonic elements. They'd like dipped and dabbed before, but this was a symphonic power metal album that they brought in. Sorry, tea break. So to hear it and see the Gods of War album played in full with a full orchestra, backed on by God, I can't remember his name. The fucking lead vocalist of Manowar. You can hold on a note for like 40 seconds because he's literally a maniac. Carl Logan, Joey DeMaio, Eric Adams. Why did I forget that? I promise they are one of my favourite bands. But that's not the point. I can remember everyone else, but not him, apparently. To hear that swell of like a string section backed on by Eric Adams, which didn't forget, his voice, I think that'd be pretty neat. But in the end, as you can probably tell with Manowar, although probably not because I can't remember his name, I am a huge sucker for power metal. And so after, like I said, Manowar, Gods of War, got me into that power metal phase, I guess you will. And I looked at more the fact that all the other power metal bands I found didn't quite sound the same as what Gods of War was. Gods of War was a symphonic power metal album. That led me to a band that Joey DeMaio, the bassist of Manowar, was managing at the time, a band called Rhapsody of Fire. And I've been a fan of them ever since. I was going to say adore, but the last few albums have been kind of meh. But I just really, really enjoy Rhapsody. They've already got... I was going through their back catalogue. Songs like Holy Thunder Force, Rise from the Sea of Flames, and Unholy Warcry, especially Unholy Warcry, they already sound like they've got a pocket orchestra with them at all times. And I was going through the albums. Most of the time, they've got a violinist and a vocal choir, and that's it. But just from having those two little bits, they make their sound so fucking huge. And to give them that symphonic backing would just be fucking great. Or that a literal symphonic backing instead of on a keyboard and programmed. Because they are a band that like to tell stories in the music, they've had various sagas over multiple albums. So first 5-6 albums it was The Emerald Sword, then it was A Dark Secret, and now with the new album coming out next month, I think. No, this month, shit. With the next album coming out next month, it's going to be start of what they're calling the Nephilim's Empire Saga. Nephilim. Hephalim. That saga. They like to have concept across a stretch of many albums. And that's what they do. And to have the orchestral backing would give those albums and those stories the best platform to be told. And on a more personal note, their star, even in my eyes, their star has declined over the past few years. They've lost Fabio Leone, Luca Turilli, and Alex Holsworth, the lead vocalist, lead guitarist, and drummer, respectively, over the past few years. And the guys they brought in aren't bad. I think with the latest song from the Eighth Mountain, it's coming in a couple of weeks, I really enjoyed it. It's Rain and Fury. I really enjoyed it. In fact, ironically enough, I think the part that let down the album the most was maybe even the keyboards, and that's from Alex Staropoli. He's been in the band since day one, so they've got a completely new cast outside him. And I think a full orchestra-backed live album would give that new lineup a chance to show people that they're not just holding a name up. They are deserving of the Rhapsody of Fire moniker, because strip away an entire band and you just got one person left. Yes, some cases it does work. Like you got Cradle of Filth, that is Danny Filth's band. Same with Guns N' Roses. Inevitably, that's always going to be Axl Rose's band. But they are key, iconic frontmen that you always recognise. Guaranteed, the most casual Rhapsody of Fire fan will probably recognise Leone Turilli more than they'll recognise Staropoli. It's the classic case of the singer and the guitarist always gets more girls than the keyboardist. It sucks, but life sucks. Get on with it. So yeah, that'd be choice number one for me. As more caters sound to like bolster what they already have. The outsider choice, of the Metallica choice, for me would be, again, gotta play to my heartstrings here, Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes. There somewhere exists a show around 2009. It was on the back of Great Britain when Frank was still in Gallows. Gallows performed a set, like a short, I think like 40-minute set with like 8 members of an orchestra, and they performed certain songs from Great Britain. To my knowledge, the footage, the sound, all of that, all the files have never been released formally publicly. And it hurts me. It hurts me deep down. It hurts me emotionally. This is why I don't smile, because I have not seen this footage or heard this sound, because I honestly feel those two things together, one of my favourite bands of all time plus an orchestral background, would sound fucking stellar. It did it when Metallica did it. So I'm still I'm very, very hurt by the fact that guys have done that and have never heard it. Frank Carter, how he is now, how he's looking at music and how he's portraying music and how he's making music, especially with the songwriting with, Dean, they are already pushing boundaries of, so for Blossom pushed the boundaries of Frank's hardcore roots, and then Modern Ruin like stretched Frank's previous experience with a more hard rock, alt rock sort of thing. And I genuinely do believe, given a few more albums, the songwriting duo of Dean Richardson and Frank Carter will be one of the modern day like strong partnerships in music. The way they apparently bounce off each other and the way they like experiment and collaborate together, I think they are going to be a real force in the songwriting world. And they're already touching on various different genres. They've already like done a bit of indie, they've already did a bluesy sort of stuff, a lot of hard rock sort of things, obviously. So why don't they go one step further and go like a full symphonic rock number? I feel like a lot of songs in their back catalogue are already waiting for that orchestral backing. I think they'll sit quite well when you've got Frank's vocal swells on songs like Lullaby, Snake Eyes, and God Is My Friend. You could easily have like a string swell at the same time to really hammer home the power of those vocal hooks. And if you want more punchy frame sort of things, a la Master of Puppets, that kind of thing, you've got Real Life, you've got Spray Paint Love, you've got Beautiful Death, and I think most of all, I really want to hear a touching, orchestral, really delicate piece of music on the back of I Hate You from Blossom. Because I think that's... If you get a symphonic rock version of I Hate You by Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, I want that song to be playing while I'm lowered into the ground. That is how much I want to hear that. So, that was more outsider choice. The one that you guys suggested, and I'm kind of annoyed I didn't think about it before you, was Architect. And if modern day Bring the Horizon fits a symphonic rock sound, then Architect would fucking destroy any like doubt or any like maybe. Holy Hell and All I Got for Bandas are bathed in that dramatic synth accompaniment. And fucking hell, Holy Hell opens with a barrage of violins and then explodes into the Architect's metalcore sound. Death Wish has this big, like, synthy cloud hanging over the top of the entire song. The violin synthy sounding, if it was a guitar, I'd say chord progression. I don't go to the same thing for violins, but that progression of notes in Doomsday, that's what you want from a symphonic crossover. You don't want it just to play the guitar parts, because that's just someone covering a song on a different instrument. That's cool, but, you know, it's been done. What you want is for it to play alongside them and to accompany them and to, in some cases, bolster them. You want it to be their own separate instrument. That's the whole point. But even as far back as Daybreaker, Architects were adding delays on vocal lines and guitars to add layers to their sound. And the earliest part I could find where they're properly experimenting with a big synth sound akin to what's found on Holy Hell and All I Got for Bandas is on These Colours Don't Run. The chorus has got this big wall in the background, which is just like a symphonic. I don't even know. I keep using the word swell purely because this is a style of music like the synth and the orchestral sort of stuff. It's not in my field of view when it comes to music. I like it from afar, but I don't know the technicalities of it. But that swell in the background just to hold up the rest of the song to make it sound fucking huge. And whilst I was looking through like the argument for Architects, the one thing I found quite interesting was Will Harvey and the Parallax Orchestra, the guys who did the Live at the Royal Albert Hall album with Bring the Horizon. They are on Holy Hell. They contributed string compositions, and I don't know how far it goes. It just says Will Harvey Parallax strings. They have contributed to the Architect's sound, so you're pretty much halfway there. Just give them a bigger stage, get everyone for Parallax in, and you got a fucking great time. Excuse me, tea break. So yeah, those are the three. Rhapsody, Frank Carter, and then Architects. If there's anyone else you think would do well, hit me up on the comment section or wherever it is you're listening to this from. Just send me hate mail. All's good. It makes me feel like I'm not talking to myself, which I absolutely am. Cool. On to then the album reviews for this week, and we're going to start grumpy. So grumpy. This is Suicide King. It is the third album from King 810 all the way. King 810, I believe they're officially called. They are from Flint, Michigan, and they are confrontational, controversial nu metal. And it'll be the first album without guitarist Andrew Beale or drummer Andrew Workman. This is a no Andy's club from now on. King 810 have always been quite an interesting band to me. The debut album, Memoirs of a Murderer, was really aggressive and really confrontational, and it talked about something about murder, which has obviously been done a lot of times before, but it did it in a more personal point of view, which is something that I'm not really familiar with outside the world of death metal. To hear it in, dare I say, a more commercial sound, like, I think, okay, you're not going to get this on like Top of the Pops or whatever, but maybe things like Scuzz, Rip, Kerrang, that kind of thing. And yeah, the album documented the violence of Flint, Michigan, what's happening down up there, over there, wherever they are. What's happening at the moment is fucking a travesty. There's a lot of obviously like personal point of view accounts of murder, violence, abuse, etc., and just the general hardships of growing up in Flint. And immediately it drew them comparisons to bands like Slipknot and Korn. And I understood Slipknot one more at the time. Korn I hear more on this album, which I'll get to in a bit. And to me, like, someone made a very good point. It can be quite dangerous to be associated with these kind of bands on your first album, because with the internet being the way it is, and with metal fans being the way they are, it can be the cynicism creeping in of maybe they are being pushed by the label and not because they're actually any good. So, personally I didn't think it was. I just thought they were a very explosive, new, edgy sound that we were like missing at the time. That's me personally. The sophomore album, which is part French, Le Petit Mort, or A Conversation with God. I think Le Petit Mort is a small death, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Does that have a Google? It doesn't. Fucking great. So, yeah, with Conversation with God, I won't do the French part. Musically, they expanded so much more, and I really enjoyed this album musically. There's a lot more intimate hip-hop influences in there. You've got a song like I Ain't Going Back Again, which is a very dark, broody, gothic, doom rap kind of song. And there's this really haunting synth on the chorus to Alpha and Omega. Again, with the, as I was saying before with the Frank Carter thing, the vocal swells that, I was going to say Pete Gunn then, but I thought, no, that's fucking wrong. David Gunn, the execution he has in Alpha and Omega, and you've got this like almost synth cross with an old school church organ just in the background to really bolster his line, because he's not the strongest vocalist there is. He does like the grunty, angry stuff well. But you know what I mean? It's just the bigger notes he struggles with. So have that in the background does exactly what symphonic music's meant to do. Just gives it a bit of balls. But yet musically, I enjoyed Conversation with God. Lyrically, it was so repetitive. Everything was Guns or Flint. And admittedly, Flint, Michigan is no picnic. If there's ever a charity case or like a charity cause that pops up and you like want to donate money to or whatever, anything to do with Flint, Michigan is the way to go, because obviously amongst other charities, of course, but apparently their own government's poisoning their water supply. They've had no clean running water. I think we're going on years now. It's been that long. They are just... I think Michigan in general is really struggling. I've heard bad stories about Detroit as well. But Flint is one of... like, you can list it on the number of cities that have just been forgotten by upper government. And it sounds fucking horrific there. And I couldn't understand why. I never really pay attention to this album's lyric unless it really, really takes me in. And I've listened to lots of albums that all centre around one theme. That's the whole point of albums. They have themes around them. And I couldn't understand why this whole thing about Guns and Flint, Michigan was annoying me compared to like pop punk albums where all this thing about is their girl from leaving them or this shitty hometown or whatever. And then the Riot Act podcast, who do what I do so much better, made a fucking great point. If you use Love, an example. Lots of bands, like I said, talk about love. A lot of pop punk bands do it, emo do it, even metal bands do it. Everyone sings songs about love. But that's because love as a concept is more widely known, and more widely understood. It's more relatable. There's more, like lyrically, if you're on the other side and you're writing songs about love, there's more to work with because there's so many different angles and things that are happening around it. Whereas Guns and Flint, Michigan, they're so much more niche. Like, fair play. I'm interested to find out if there's a heavy metal fan who's into Guns with this album or appeals to them because they know what it's like to hold a gun, shoot a gun, whatever. And for people who have spent time in Flint, Michigan, is it better? Is King 810 good to them because they understand more about what they're referencing? You know what I mean? It's like, with all this song, like Wonder Years, for example, they've got, like, The Greatest Generation is all about ex-girlfriends, depression, hometown, and on various different levels, it's so much more relatable and you can understand what they're going through and what they're talking about, as opposed to a white boy from the middle of England. I don't have a fucking clue how a gun works or what it's like to beat the shit out of someone or to not have running water. Cis white male patriarchy for the win, yo. Excuse me. So yeah, I probably should edit out tea breaks, but fuck you. Where does that leave us with Suicide King then? So the album opens with a song that sounds like a good Mushroomhead song, which still makes it shit because it's Mushroomhead. And the opening lyric to that, which I haven't got written down anywhere, but the way he says it, where he speaks it, makes it sound like he's going for, like, auditioning for the role as Joker in an ex-DC film. Next actual proper song, Braveheart. I'm pretty sure that was the first song released for the album. Initially, I thought it was kind of boring. I just thought it was like a very bog standard King 810 song. It didn't really do anything for me. It's grown on me a lot more recently. But yeah, it didn't do anything new, which is what, when it's a lead single from a new album, even if the rest of the song is going to be pretty much par for the course, you want that first song to be catchy and memorable, which I didn't think Braveheart was, but there we go. And moves on to, like, the first half of the album doesn't massively go outside of what King 810 is known for. So that includes Braveheart. You've got a song called Bang Guns, which I've described as tap out core. The lyrics to it are fucking just bro do bro, yo. You scared of gunshots, boy, pussy boy. Wanna run and tell the cops, boy, pussy boy. I'm a real Don Dada boy, pussy boy. Shotters coming out that Glock, boy, pussy boy. I need Google Translate for that one, but then it goes on to say, I'm a real rude boy. I don't ever run, Oh, fuck me. I'm a real rude boy. I don't ever run. I only touch hands with boys whose hands squeeze guns. Really don't like how much he uses the word boy in that lyric, but you know what I mean. It's very man, dude, bro, at the gym, protein, dude, bro, women are there to be fucked kind of mentality, which is just bleh. It's just bleh. And yeah, I can't unread the I don't ever run, I only touch hands with boys whose hands squeeze guns. Just icky. Anyway, moving on, please, to $1 Million. $1 Million is actually a really fucking good song. I like the fact it uses a sample in the chorus. I don't know where the samples come from. It's probably something that would have been a smart thing to do a Google of, but never mind. And I feel like it's closer to hip hop than it is to metal, and that's not a bad thing. Bring Rice is going to tell us all about how it's not a bad thing later, but it's actually so $1 Million is like the best of the first half. It's actually the second half of the album where the hip hop elements really become prominent, and that's when the album is at its best. So you got a song like What's Got Into Me. It's a very bassy synth-led rap that adds like a spoopy layer that 810 really crave, with pianos on the chorus. It's got like a little piano interlude at the start. Every chorus that's there, it's just almost like it's bringing the song together, which is where there's like little bits here and there. Black Rifle almost is like this like slow, easy like Louisiana blues kind of a feel. It even has like an organ-led chorus, which I'm finding out I'm really liking organs right now. And then the hip-hop element of King 810 continues for the next 3 songs. God Is Watching, Wade in the Water, and Sing Me to Sleep. And like I said, the second half of the album, from track 6 to track 10, that is when this album is at its best. But lyrically, the entire album is still all about guns, for fuck's sake. They've even like cut down on the Flint references. Even they've forgotten about Flint, Michigan. They're fucking from there. It's boring. It's so dull to hear the same song over and over again, just with different musical composition. I've really been blagging me to how much I'm so aware of how much these guys sing about guns, but I'm not so aware about how other bands sing about the same thing over and over again. If bands sing about politics, that is a subject that's constantly changing. You've got Brexit, you've got Trump, you've got North Korea, you've got Russia, you've got Syria, I only found about France fucking this morning. If you want to talk about war, there is 1,001 different perspectives from a war-based point of view. And there's 1,001 different wars you could sing from. I listened to an album last week, the Rome album. Musically, it sounds like it should be like King Richard III or some like horseback, sword, chainmail, yah. When they're singing all about like World War One, and then conversely, you got bands that are like got a real industrial edge, like the first half of the 20th century, where you think, oh, it's World War One, it's World War Two. No, they're going back in time and singing about the old Celtic wars or whatever. Look at any folk music from the Scandinavian region. They've got old Norse war folk tales in there. There's so much you can do with just the themology of war. If you do want to talk about love, is it going good? Is it going bad? How? Why? There's lots of dopey metaphors and songs about love. And they exist because we need emos to exist. That's what fuels them. And also there must be a lot because there's a lot of fucking emos. Death. This is such a death-heavy album, which is completely fine. If you want to make an album all about the different varieties of death, that is fine. But it just balances between him getting a hard-on for murdering people and then him crying because people keep murdering his friends. Last year, Architects released an album almost exclusively talking about death. And no two songs are alike. Like, I even went through it. You've got songs about when even Sam dies. Like, from both perspectives, the people he leaves behind, what are they going to think? What are they going to do? How are they going to feel? When he dies, what is he going to do? Is there an afterlife? What does he do? Like, he even thinks about the process of being, I am alive, I am dead. That split second between dead and alive. He sings about that split second in a song. He talks about how, obviously with circumstances around Tom, he talks about that. He talks about what life is like after that. It's so possible to have an album centered around one thing and make it interesting the entire way through. And you want, like, David Gunn wants to be this hard-faced, hard-nosed, almost bully of a man who's gone through shit and now he's trying to make it for himself. And that's absolutely fine. But for fuck's sake, if you're as interesting as you think you are, make the music interesting as well. Or make the lyrics, interesting as well. The music side of the thing, you've got things down. Like, honestly, Conversation with God musically I really enjoy. This musically I'm really, really digging. Especially the second half when you do have the more hip-hop stuff coming through as opposed to the more metal stuff coming through. But I'm pretty sure I've heard the lyric, pulled out my Glock and pulled it on someone, about 3 times every single King 810 album. You know? God fucking damn, man. I feel bad now, because I've got to say, like, if you enjoy XYZ, you might enjoy this. If this is the first time you're going to go into 810, I think the Slipknot comparisons exist there for a reason. It's very confrontational, it's very edgy, it's very aggressive nu metal. So if you like that Slipknot sound from any era, you'll enjoy King 810, you'll enjoy Suicide King. When it goes a bit more dark and gothic-y, I think suits modern day Korn more. So if you enjoy like the last, ignoring Paradigm Shift, the last like 3 Korn albums, I think you'll really go for this. Also, I've got a lot of comparisons to Cane Hill as well, and more second album, which I reviewed a couple weeks ago. Too Far Gone. More of that as opposed to the debut, because there's a lot less. There's a lot less. The industrial side of things aren't as in your face in the second Cane Hill album, and this is more in Suicide King. It's more just like the hip hop sampling as opposed to full industrial. So yeah, Slipknot, Korn, Cane Hill. If you take away the lyrics, this is a really good album musically, but I just can't get past the lyrics. And so yeah, that's Suicide King by King 180, not 810. I've just read it's not 810. Moving on to something completely fucking different. It is the surprise release, the surprise 12th release, if you can believe it. I know I can't. For LA power pop veterans and legends, Weezer. It is another one of their self-titled albums. This one is being dubbed the Teal Album. And it is an album comprising of various cover songs, mostly from the 70s and 80s, with a couple of 60s and one No Scrubs. Literally all that came with this album was a Facebook post saying, surprise, guess who just dropped a new album? No, it's not the Black Album, that's still coming on March the 1st. Here's the Teal Album to hold you over until then. And I think it's safe to say Weezer have fully embraced their memeage over the past few years. You know, it started with the internet's desire for Weezer to cover Africa by Toto. Fucking who knows why, but, you know, it's played in Beer Keller a lot. And from there, it's apparently fucking spiraled to now Weezer sort of like going into business for themselves and now making a full covers album. Like, fuck knows if this was meant to happen or not. But, like, there's been two sides of the coin, people praising and people criticising how self-aware it is in their own status in the modern meme world. And personally, I can't decide if Weezer have been very clever or Weezer have been very dull to choose the songs that they have. Because a lot of these songs cater to the iconic Weezer sound. And, you know, covers albums are hard. Do you rearrange a song to fit your sound? To completely, like, rewrite it so that it fits you more than it does them? Or do you honour the original and just put your, like, keys and your distortion or whatever over the top of the original notes and original tablature? And I think this has gone... For the bulk of the album, I think they are honouring the original more, but again, like I said, I think that just suits the Weezer sound more. So you got songs like Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Happy Together, Mr. Blue Sky. If you sat someone down who'd never listened to Weezer before and just put them in a room and played 10 songs and put these 3 songs in there, no one would be able to tell you that they weren't originally Weezer songs. Like, without context, I honestly think people would think they're just normal Weezer songs compared to the rest of the back catalogue. Songs like Africa, Take On Me, Stand By Me, they really, really suit Rivers Cuomo vocally. And he hasn't lost a fucking step, has he? He does look old as fucking balls on the cover. And he's the only person I know where, if you take off his glasses, he actually looks older. But him vocally, he sounds exactly the same as he does when they started in the 90s. And when I was alluding to before, when I said about the guitar stepping in for a song, they did a cover of Paranoid by Black Sabbath. And they got the guitarist Brian Bellin to do the vocals. And he fucking nails it. Like, he's got the Aussie cowl down to an absolute T. And the whole song has such a fucking sweet guitar tone. It's so crunchy. It's so just really hammers home the song. Like, just for the guitar tone alone, I love that song. And that might just be the essence of Black Sabbath, what made them popular in the first place. But who knows? With everyone going nuclear for Africa, the song, not the country. Like, it was a song that got played in nightclubs a lot. It's played at beer killers throughout the country pretty much every night. And people know all the words. I have a friend who can't stand the song. I'm starting to get that way because the song is everywhere. Why is it then that not a single person that I have seen has gone absolutely fucking bananas over the fact that they've covered No Scrubs by TLC? Like I said, Weezer are fully going into their memeage now. They completely baffled the fan base in the lead up to the Black Album, which is the one that's coming out in March. The album cover for the Black Album, they're all donned in leather dominatrix dominatrix suits. No one has flinched at this. No one has flinched at the leather suits. No one has flinched at No Scrubs. What? No one cares, and I don't understand why. It's such a fucking bonkers choice of song. It took this version of the song for me to discover the scientific definition of a scrub, which also leads me to believe that for the 90s, I think the original version of this came out in 1999. TLC, the members of TLC, had some fucking high standards for the late 90s. If you go and listen or read the lyrics to the song, you'll see that, yeah, they were fucking... You're not allowed to... Admittedly, the man in question, he still lives with his parents, he hasn't got that much money, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, not everyone can be fucking loaded, Mrs. Lucy Longlegs, Tear Eyes, or Chili, I think the other one... I can't remember the names. The T and the L and the S. Like, okay, he lives with his parents. Okay, he, hangs out with his mate who drives him around. We all have a friend that we, piggyback bliss off of. Living with parents, he might just not have any money. He obviously does have any money, else he'd have a place of his own. If you try to get a job, they're not that fucking easy. Just fuck off, TLC. I saw you release an album a couple of years ago thinking you could do a comeback. Fucking no. I feel like I don't need to say, if you like XYZ, you'll like this album, because I think at this point, everyone has heard of Weezer, everyone has heard of fucking Africa, and everyone just knows exactly what to expect. So, yeah. Weezer, the new album, they'll be back later this year, around March time, when I'll be looking at the Black album, because the White album was great, this is okay. The Fever Daydream, I think it was called, was very mediocre, but because this is a self-titled Weezer album, the rule is, if it's named as Weezer, it gon' be good. So, yeah, Black album later, but for now, Teal album, go check it out, because it's fucking maddening. And let me know what people think of the No Scrubs cover, because honestly, I feel like I'm the only one who's realised it's there. Fuck. Now, dare I say the main event for this evening. It is album 6 from the Sheffield deathcore turned pop, which is a weird thing to say out loud. Deathcore turned pop with many stops in between. It is Bring Me the Horizon with Ammo, and straight off the bat, I will happily admit that I wasn't expecting much from Ammo. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of That's the Spirit. Honestly, I think There Is a Hell and Sempiternal survive as one of the best modern metalcore albums ever. I'll happily say ever, especially Sempiternal. It dawned on me the other day that by the end of 2019, people won't just be doing end of year lists, they'll be doing end of decade lists, which has terrified me greatly. But other than that, There Is a Hell and Sempiternal will at least be spoken about for me when I come to do my end of decade list. That's how much I like those albums. So that was, and then when with Sempiternal going a lot more like the synthy sort of stuff, when That's the Spirit came out and they went full on in with those like electro synthy sounds, tea break, I'll happily say I was taken aback at first, but the first few singles made me hopeful. A lot more pop sound, very much stepping away from Sempiternal, but good nonetheless. But overall, after those bright moments from songs like Drown and Throne and eventually Avalanche, I just wasn't a fan of That's the Spirit at all. I thought it was ultimately quite bland. And based on that, and each of the singles that came out in preparation for Ammo, Mantra, I thought was good. I thought it was a better stopgap between Sempiternal and That's the Spirit than, was it Drown back then? Was the stopgap between them? I thought it did a lot better job if it were to do that part. A lot more new metal-y and played a lot more on the electrics and let Ollie sort of like play around with vocals a little bit more. Similar sort of thing to Wonderful Life. A lot more new metal sound, which what I think That's the Spirit hit on more. And it fucking, the music video to that is just, I don't even know. I'm going to move along. Medicine, initially I hated this song. I thought it was really, really bland. To the point where how much I didn't like it made me like Wonderful Life even more. And someone described Medicine perfectly to me as they described it as edgy Maroon 5. Yeah. And then from there it was Mother Tongue. And all I kept thinking was the 1975 are calling and they're suing. Because it just, carbon copy of that. Admittedly, I'd never even heard of I knew of 1975 before, but I don't think I'd ever consciously listened to their songs. As it turns out, I have, because they're on the radio all the fucking time. And honestly, if you put Mother Tongue in a Spotify playlist of 1975 songs, I would not initially have been able to pick it out of the field. I would have thought everything was 1975 and just shot myself in the head. And then the last song was Nihilist Blues, which I just didn't even know what to do with. Like, it only came out a couple of days, the day before the album came out. I was just sat like, I can't take it in. I can't do it. I want to lay down. So yeah, on the back of Dazzle Spirit and all the singles that came out, especially the progression of them, I wasn't confident. But this album has definitely brought me around. It's not a full 180. I still have my gripes, which I'll get to. But overall, I really enjoy Ammo. I'll happily say I was completely wrong. Mantra is still a really, really strong song. I think vocally, Ollie Sykes is at his best on this song. It is a great bridge between... Honestly, I think it fits more at home on That's the Spirit, because that gap between Sempiternal and That's the Spirit, I think this would have done a lot better job instead of throwing people straight in the deep end. But yeah, Ollie gets a chance to do his more singing kind of like singing vocals in the choruses. He can still have that little rumble at his throat. He's got a scream there as well. I think this is very much an Ollie song. I am now completely sold on Nihilist Blues. It is a massive electro pop song, and the drop rivals any breakdown Bring Me have ever done. And I can already picture it in nightclubs, soundtracking the exchange of the clap and ketamine. I think it's a fucking wonderful song. I'll happily say I was completely wrong about Nihilist Blues. Annoyingly, someone pointed out how much In the Dark sounds like 21 Pilots, and I think that's completely spot on, which is even more surprising the fact that I really like In the Dark, and I thought the last 21 Pilots song was utter crap. Weirdly enough, The Wonderful Life has really gone down for me. I now think it's one of the weaker songs. It feels like it could be, again, more home on the lesser end of That's the Spirit. And yeah, I don't know what it is. Like I've said about it to friends at work, and I can't put my finger on why it is, but I just thought it's kind of bland now. It makes me so erect knowing that when this inevitably gets played in the nightclub, it's like, hey guys, this is the edgy song, woo, rock music. It makes me happy that nightclubs will now indirectly be putting Danny Filth on the stereo, and at the middle of the song where everyone's bopping along, you're going to have this full-on black metal shriek of Danny Filth soundtracking the biggest nightclubs. And yeah, I'll happily say I can't wait for that. I might peruse nightclubs just to wait for this moment and then go home again. I will need a lot of money to do it and a lot of patience, but it will be done. And where Wonderful Life has gone down, Medicine has shot up. There's certain guitar parts in there that remind me of the quiet part on It Never Ends, and it took me ages to figure out why I recognise that like plinky plonky guitar sound. Maroon 5 wish, especially on the back of that Super Bowl thing, they wish they could write anything half as interesting as Medicine. And that then brings me to the absolute star of the show, which is Sugar Honey Ice and Tea. The song is 14 years too late for that Madagascar reference. Also, Madagascar came out 14 years ago. Time waits for no one. We're all going to die of its inevitable gaze. But this song is fucking incredible. It bounces so flawlessly between styles, both vocally and musically. It does everything pop music's supposed to do. That huge chorus that will get stuck in your head. It keeps it interesting during the verses. It has like a lot more of a rocky verse to it, and then it is a full-on sampled or auto-tuned or vocal play in the chorus. I fucking adore that song. And the bit that got me most interested was the last song on the album, which is I Don't Know What to Say. For whatever reason, this song doesn't stick in my head at all. Like, I don't know why, but when the album gets to heavy metal, as soon as that song finishes, I cut off. I don't know why, but it just happens. But I think it's really interesting the fact that with the work they've done with Parallax for the Live at the Royal Albert Hall show, and I've just realised that they are in this, but never mind. Well, the work that they did with Parallax, it's now influenced I Don't Know What to Say, and the fact that I'm just reading the additional personnel now, it's got Parallax Orchestra as like an orchestra part at the bottom. It makes sense that the work they did the Royal Albert Hall show for collaborating their old songs with the new symphonic sound, which has gone on before, they've now written a song specifically for that purpose. So I Don't Know What to Say, to me, is the Bring Me Horizon version of Minus Human, or fuck, No Leaf Clover. It's gonna No Holds Barred. That's something completely different. That's wrestling getting out. Yeah, No Leaf Clover or Minus Human is like the comparative song, written wise, if that makes sense. I kind of butchered that sentence there, but I lost my train of thought and I forgot what the song was called. It happens a lot. I forget things. I'm dumb. The reason why it's not a complete 180, in my opinion, is a lot of the lyrics on this album are completely fucking dog shit. Like, heavy metal, I'll happily say, it's fucking annoyingly catchy. Me and a friend of mine at work listened to it at work, and it got stuck in our head for the entire shift, and was all we could like mumble to each other for about 4 hours. It's great. It's a good song. It's annoying how catchy it is, and it's trying to be ultra metal with him having a go at the people who think it's shit that they're not a #metal band anymore. But lyrically, it's so paper thin, it's so tacky, and it's so plastic. Like, because a kid on the gram in a Black Dahlia tank says it ain't heavy metal, and that's alright. First of all, fucking balls to try and like go after Black Dahlia or Black Dahlia murder. Trevor Sternard is not the kind of dude you want to piss off. He looks like a Viking because all he does is like take a shirt off, drink beer, and shout at people. And he also fronts Black Dahlia murder. It's just, it's the edgy. You want an edgy song against fans and the critics who have like kind of gone after you and gone after your sound. You've got that in Why You Gotta Keep Me When I'm Down. Like, because lyrically that song antagonizes those who've tried to get in the way of Ollie Sykes' personal life. That song fucking slams. It's really good. The lyrics in it are really good. This is just fucking shit. The random bit of Portuguese and mother tongue to try and sound interesting. Fuck off, mate. You are some muppet from Sheffield. You are not like... If you had a whole song in Portuguese, fair enough. The fact that your album name is Portuguese, kind of annoying, but I'll allow it. To random put in... Oh, what is it? So, is it Don't Try and Love Me, Fala Ammo? Which, whatever it is, I ended up looking it up. Fala Ammo, well, Ammo means love, obs. Fala Ammo means to talk about love. Oh, that was it. So don't say you love me, Fala Ammo. So, Fala Ammo means to talk about love. So the lyrics basically, don't say you love me when you're trying to talk about love. Which, my puny, forever alone brain can't wrap my head around. But, weird noises. It's just shit, isn't it? It's just a bit shit. And as much as I enjoy Medicine, as much as that song has grown on me over the past few weeks of listening, some people are a lot like clouds, you know, because life is so much brighter when they glow. Garen fucking Teed. That lyric is somewhere swimming around on Instagram next to a picture of a minion. And it's being shared and exchanged by mums. I'm fully expecting my mum to like post that on Instagram imminently. And you think this is the same guy who lyrically wrote Go to Hell for Heaven's Sake, It Never Ends, Don't Go, Crucify Me, Can You Feel My Heart? Realise a lot of those songs from There Is a Hell. There Is a Hell's really good, don't you know? But my fucking god, he's so much better than this. Why are lyrics this week so shitting on me? I don't like it. Either way, like I said, I really enjoyed Ammo. If you could ignore the shitty lyrics, that... I made a big fuss of them. There are a lot of good lyrics in this album, I have to say. It's just like, and like I said, even when they're really shit like heavy metal, that song will ingrain yourself like a fucking worm inside, just constantly over and over again until you inevitably die. And that's a great thing. Or as you would say, that's alright. I miss my cue. If you enjoy, I feel like everyone at this point has heard Ammo. It's just reached number 1 on Billboard, I think they said. Something mad like that. I guess. No, it was not this anyway. Anyway, it's gone number 1 somewhere very, very important. I remember that. I think it's the UK number 1, I want to say. Fuck it. I think that everyone at this point has heard it. Everyone at this point has at least heard That's the Spirit. But if you do need any comparisons, because it is a massive difference to what they used to do. Modern day Linkin Park, modern day Shikari. I even going to compare this to Charlie XCX. Because that last album, which it had Boom Clap on it. I can't remember what it's called. Yup. It was super electro-poppy and it had a lot of rock bits in, which is what Ammo is. It's super electro-poppy with some rock bits in. I think there's a bit of a crossover there. So yeah, Linkin Park, Shikari, Charlie XCX. If you like them, you like the modern interpretations of them, I feel like you will definitely go for Ammo by Bring Me Horizon. Album number 6, and apparently the Bring Me Horizon we have now, it's really weird that it used to be big hair, fringes, and now they are weaponized top shop. But yes, either way, that is everything for this week. Reviews on Kick 180. Wait, 80. I don't know why I'm really struggling with that. Weezer and Bring the Horizon. If you have any more suggestions on which bands should perform with orchestral backing, do get in touch. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. All at Desolation Pod. Forgot my train of thought. And some point this weekend, I'm going to be releasing the next album I'm going to do for Open Mic. That's coming back because I will have definitely remembered this time. And I've already got it scheduled to come out at some point. I just can't remember which day I put it on, so it's definitely coming no matter what I want. So, until next week, which should hopefully be back to Wednesday, I will see you soon. Goodbye.